What I didn't really understand was what was all involved with actually starting a grading business. So number one, I didn't even really understand what grading meant. And I just called it Alexander Grading because I thought that was cool, right? And I could get the domain name for it. So I got the domain name for it. I started my LLC and I was up and running, and I was like, oh frick, what do I do now? But what I didn't realize is that just by buying a skid steer, that was just the little tip of the iceberg of what I needed to actually do this business, right? So I realized that my Chevy 1500 that I had was not capable of pulling a 12,000 pound skid steer. So I knew nothing about, hey, the capacities of trucks or towing rating or trailers or anything like that. So immediately I had to go buy a truck that was capable of pulling a skid steer and pulling equipment, and a trailer that was capable of hauling it. So my friend Scotty, at the same time, was also coaching me up and basically saying, hey, I'm going to introduce you to this guy. He might have a little job for you, whatever else. And looking back on it now, that job was the easiest job ever. It was basically running about 30 feet of 8-inch line to a storm drain box, and then tying it in. But that almost killed me. So about this time of the year, it was about in August, and I was out there by myself trying to cut concrete and dig the trench, and then knock out this concrete box and put a hole in it, and then move this pipe and put it all together. And I was out of shape. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was basically in tears, right? And me and Jesus had a little talk that day, right? Because it was almost 100 degrees outside, and I was sitting there and I was about ready to cry. And I'm like, I just quit my job. What am I doing here, right? And it was terrible. But luckily, my friend Scotty and this guy named Jesus both came through for me. And Scotty showed up. Basically, in like 15 minutes, they had all the pipe put together. They helped me knock it out, and they just showed me, hey, what was capable, right? And that gave me a little boost of confidence and kind of got me on my way. About the same time is we started going to Second Chance Church, and then Perry from Stage basically said, hey, it was like all the messages were pointed right at me. Every week, the first like 10 or 12 weeks, I was like, man, that's the best message I've ever heard. It was like he was talking right to me, right? And then Perry was saying, he just gave simple steps that I could follow, right? He said, hey, the step one is basically you give your life to Christ, right? You raise your hand, you get saved, right? Step two is you go get baptized, right? Step three is you turn your finances over. And then step four, you get into the Word. You give the first part of your day to the Lord every morning. You get into the Word, right? I'm like, if it's really that simple, I'm willing to go follow those steps, right? What's it going to cost me to go do this? From that point on, I'm like, I'm all in. Let's do this, right? Of course, I was saved, and then Kara and I both decided to get baptized, and that was in 2020 sometime, I think. And then we said, hey, we're going to turn our finances over. This business, everything is yours, Lord, right? It's all yours anyway, so why not just give it all to you, right? So we started tithing. We started we started praying every morning before we started work, right? We just did a little group thing, say, hey, Lord, thank you for today. Thank you for everything you're doing in my life. And thank you, even though this is hard, I'd still thank you, right? And things started to kind of like it took a while, right? It wasn't immediate, it wasn't overnight, but things started to come together, right? I had no earthly idea. I was still drinking from a fire hose and still am today, trying to learn this business and learn everything about it. But the cool thing is that God was like, he was bringing people into my life that I needed at the right, perfect time. So we started basically hiring people, and we came up with this whole concept of hey, we want to build people by moving dirt, right? Building people by moving dirt. That's our motto in this business, and that's a big deal for us, right? So not only does it mean building the people that work for us, but it's building everyone that we come in contact with, whether it's the people at the gas station, the people at the restaurants, it's your families, it's everyone that we can touch here. We want to help them be better, right? By knowing us, right? And we wanted to be, we try to pride ourselves in being the Chick-fil-A of the grading business, right? So we want to have a culture that we're a pleasure to be around. We want to do A+ quality work, right? And we know we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to stand behind our work and make it right, right? And we feel like God's going to honor that if we stick by those kind of rules, right? And the whole business is his anyways, so we put him right in the middle of everything we were doing. We did our first commercial project in October of 2021. And then since then, I'm not sure how many commercial projects we've done, but the businesses grew 6 times, you know, 6-fold over what we were back then just 3 years ago. And now we have 30 employees and probably 60 pieces of equipment. And I'm living a life which I never ever, if you would have told me 5 years ago that, hey, this is where we're going to be in 5 years, I would have said no way, right?